the hands of a 12-person jury. The defense and the prosecution delivering closing arguments Tuesday in Trump's hush money trial. Jury deliberations are expected to start Wednesday. Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. Parts of Texas and western Louisiana facing yet another round of severe weather Tuesday. It comes as more than 1 million customers in Texas lost power after powerful storms unloaded hurricane-force winds across the Dallas area.
We have hundreds of thousands of customers without power. This, unfortunately, will be a multi-day power outage situation.
Israel launching new strikes Tuesday in Rafah. At least 29 people were killed by 2 Israeli strikes at displacement camps. That's according to Gaza health officials. It comes as the country faces global condemnation of a deadly strike.
Israel must take every precaution possible to do more to protect innocent life. And we've been actively engaged with the IDF and with partners on the ground to learn more about what happened.
Those are your headlines now. Here's your weather on the ones.
Hey everybody, I'm meteorologist Nate Harrington. After Memorial Day with lots of showers, storms, severe weather across parts of the U.S., another round of severe weather for folks down in the southern plains. Some active showers as an area of low pressure and a cold front sweep across the east coast. All together, though, it looks like another round of severe storms are going to be possible over the next couple of days. Unsettled weather in the plains and out west. And then we still have sweltering heat in the south, but a cool down on the way for folks on the east coast. We'll talk all about it in your forecast coming up.
A historic Sharon Tazewell, some tense moments in a Manhattan courtroom. Closing arguments in Donald Trump's historic hush money trial began today. The defense and prosecution getting one final chance to convince the jury of their respective cases before deliberations begin. Judge Juan Merchan admonished Trump's attorney Todd Blanche, who suggested in front of the jury that his client going to jail would be outrageous. That's according to the Washington Post. Prosecutors, meantime, say the former president falsified internal business records to cover up hush money payments tied to a scheme to bury negative stories that potentially threatened his 2016 presidential bid. Trump has denied the allegations, pleading not guilty to all 34 felony counts. Spectrum's Dan Rivoli joins us now from outside the courthouse. Dan, break down the key moments from closing arguments Tuesday.
District Attorney Alvin Bragg was in the courtroom for closing arguments, and the prosecution made closing arguments through ADA Joshua Steinglass, and he really spent the time to defend the key witnesses in the prosecution's case, starting with the publisher of the National Enquirer, David Pecker, saying his testimony sets up the conspiracy between him, Donald Trump, and Michael Cohen to coordinate and influence the 2016 election through news coverage and buying unflattering stories about Donald Trump's alleged affairs, and then burying those stories to avoid embarrassing Donald Trump and hurting his presidential campaign. Then, moving on to adult film actress Stormy Daniels, she received $130,000 in hush money payments. She alleged an affair with Donald Trump, and the prosecutor called her story messy, but it is important because it establishes motive. Then, of course, going into Michael Cohen's testimony, the prosecution said, paid the price for doing Donald Trump's bidding for so many years as Donald Trump's right-hand man, someone who would cheat for his own boss. But he told the jury that Michael Cohen should be treated as a tour guide through the evidence, that the documents do not lie. Beginning in the day, it was the defense, Donald Trump's lead defense attorney, Todd Blanche, who made closing arguments for the former president. And he called Michael Cohen the gloat, the greatest liar of all time, establishing for the jury that he is a convicted perjurer, that he even lied on the witness stand about the legal work he did for Donald Trump in 2017. It was just one of 10 reasons that Todd Blanche laid out for the jury as to why there's reasonable doubt and that they should acquit Donald Trump. He said Michael Cohen did do the legal work, created invoices, came from Michael Cohen's testimony, and it is testimony the jury should disregard. Sharon?
All right, so Dan, give us a timeline of what we can expect to see next in the trial.
So the judge asked the jury to stay late today so that the hours-long summations can be totally completed. That means on Wednesday, Judge Merchan will give his instructions to the jury about what the law is and what the prosecution has to establish in order to find Donald Trump guilty. And hopefully by Wednesday, the jury will be in deliberations, leaving the fate of the former president in their hands. Sharon?
All right, Dan Rivoli in New York City. Thanks. As attorneys delivered closing arguments Tuesday, dueling press conferences outside the Manhattan courtroom are making headlines. Actor Robert De Niro appeared on behalf of the Biden campaign, while Trump's two oldest sons blasted Washington.
This is political lawfare.
He wants to sow total chaos.
As attorneys delivered their closing arguments to the jury inside, a battle raged in the court of public opinion outside in support of former President Trump, where his sons Eric and Don Jr. and his daughter-in-law Laura, who argue that the trial is political and unfair.
They're doing it because they have a political vendetta.
This is the time to stop him.
This after legendary actor Robert De Niro made a cameo for the Biden campaign, along with two police officers who defended the Capitol during the January 6th riot.
The true heroes, they stood and put their lives on the line.
Donald Trump is the greatest threat to our democracy.
Those officers were Harry Dunn, a former Capitol police officer who recently lost a bid for Congress in Maryland, and now retired police officer Michael Fanone, who was dragged into the crowd on January 6 and assaulted.
I'm just one representative by Donald Trump's supporters, inspired by his lies.
This decision to hold a campaign event outside the courthouse being blasted by members of the Trump campaign.
Joe Biden's sending his campaign outside of this criminal courthouse. It is a full-blown concession that this trial is a witch hunt.
The Biden campaign pushing back, saying they were not there because of the trial at all.
We're not here today because of what's going on over there.
Evan Kozlov joins us now from Washington. Evan, we're also following new developments in Trump's classified documents case regarding a gag order.
Right, this all relates to that federal trial based out of Florida. It's the case when the FBI agents actually raided Mar-a-Lago to seize classified documents that Trump was holding on to after he left office. Last week, the special counsel's office tried to get a gag order that would bar Trump for making public statements that could endanger law enforcement. This comes Mar-a-Lago raid. But on Tuesday, the judge rejected the request, saying that the defense just doesn't have enough time to review all of this, although she did so in a way that allows the prosecution to file this motion again in the future. Sharon?
All right, Evan Kozlov in Washington. Thanks. Just ahead on Spectrum News, a Memorial Day holiday weekend hit with a wave of deadly storms. The recovery efforts now underway in Texas to help hundreds of thousands without power.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
At Spectrum, we know how much you depend on the reliability of our products and services. Now, we've taken a new step forward in reliability by identifying potential service issues before they become a problem. If you're affected, we'll contact you. The proactive maintenance of our network is one of the many reasons Spectrum delivers the most reliable internet speeds in the nation. Spectrum, keeping you connected.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cooked my favorite breakfast for me every morning. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
And across the country today, lots of heat, especially in the southwestern corner. El Paso, 100 degrees, 104 in Phoenix. The sweltering heat continued for folks along the Gulf Coast states as well. It was a sweltering weekend too, but finally a little bit of heat relief for them. You look to the north, find temperatures in the 60s and 70s, very pleasant in the upper Midwest. We've got another cold front headed our way, and over the next several days, you're going to see some big time changes, especially on the eastern side of the U.S. Big flare-up of convection, right? Severe storms, flooding potentially throughout the afternoon and evening hours, and we'll continue to watch the chances for more severe storms during the late evening and overnight in those same locations. And then we kind of switch our gears into more off to the west. We find right across the Front Range and just to the east of the Rockies, severe weather potential too. So we see those storms die out down to the southern plains and watch more storms start to develop on Wednesday afternoon off to the west. Folks in Rapid City, Denver, Albuquerque, New Mexico, possibly seeing some shower and storm activity and the chances for severe weather and also a little bit of flooding too. So still an active scene out there, even though you don't see the big time severe weather outbreak and the chances that we've seen here over the last week or so. You still have a chance, and a decent one at that, for folks right along the Rockies and just to the east from the Dakotas through Nebraska. Folks in Denver, Colorado could be dealing with some strong storms. Of the lower 48, not bad, but sweltering heat once again will be the story. Phoenix at 103, El Paso pretty much 100 degrees, Orlando, Miami. It has been a very sweltering last couple of weeks for folks down in Florida, with temperatures breaking records. And it's not just the heat, it's the humidity too. Triple-digit heat index values for those folks. But cooler air, like I said, starting to spill in to the eastern half of the country. We'll talk more about that in your forecast coming up.
Hundreds of thousands are without power in parts of Texas after another wave of deadly storms hit the region. At least 25 storm-related deaths have been reported over the Memorial Day holiday weekends in multiple states. Spectrum's Carla Redditt has a look at the recovery efforts now underway.
Parts of the central U.S. once again in the torrential rain and powerful winds whipped through the Dallas, Texas area early Tuesday, bringing wind gusts over 80 miles an hour and large hail to some areas. The widespread damage to some homes and businesses on par with that suffered over the past weekend from deadly tornadoes across that same region.
I have never prayed so hard in my whole life.
Texas was among the hardest hit, with several fatalities and many survivors still reeling from other difficult losses.
We've lost cows, we've lost pigs, we lost one of our dogs. My husband's lost his horse.
Tuesday's new wave of storms also striking on primary election day in Texas, leaving more than a third of one county's polling places in the dark.
I signed a declaration of disaster as we have hundreds of thousands of customers without power.
More than 750,000 customers, as tracked by PowerOutage.us.
Unfortunately, will be a multi-day power outage situation.
Critical infrastructure like hospitals and emergency response services will be prioritized for service before residential homes. The severe weather threat continues for Texas and parts of Oklahoma and Louisiana into the evening hours. Another 9 million people face a similar risk in the High Plains Wednesday, from northern Colorado up into North Dakota. Carla Redditt, Spectrum News.
And turning now to the Middle East, Ireland is joining Spain and Norway in officially recognizing a Palestinian state. The move comes just days after an Israeli airstrike killed at least 45 people in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the attack a tragic error, but says he will not end the war until their military's goals were completed. The U.S. says it'll be watching the results of an Israeli investigation into the deadly strike.
Israel has a right to go after the Hamas terrorists responsible for the cold-blooded murder of civilians, as appears to have been Israel's aim here. But Israel also has the obligation to do everything possible to minimize civilian harm as it carries out its operations.
New Israeli attacks Tuesday killed at least 29 Palestinians in Rafah. Over 36,000 Palestinians have been killed since the start of the war in October. Meantime, a U.S.-constructed pier used to transport aid into Gaza has broken apart. The Pentagon says a pier will be removed and taken away from the beach to be repaired. The repairs are expected to take at least a week. It's been more than a year since the Writers Guild of America hit the picket line. The strike lasted 148 days. But the impact is still being felt by companies that rely on Hollywood for work. Spectrum's Lydia Pantazis shows us how the strike is leading to the closure of a company that's been around for more than 2 decades.
This is a good piece, too. Picking out clothes for her vintage shop. It's a passion for Marissa Gomez. She owns Echo Park Vintage. Oh my God! But says shopping here at Valentino's Costume Group in North Hollywood hits different.
Us being able to shop here is amazing. Like, opening it to the public is really incredible.
That's because for the past 25 years, Valentino's has been a costume rental company. It's where set costumers find items for movies like The Nutty Professor and Hail Caesar, or theatrical releases like Something Rotten or Beetlejuice.
Hi, here for the sale?
But then the pandemic hit and writers went on strike. Sydney Evie is the floor manager at Valentino's.
When we moved into this building, the writers' strike happened not too long after that, which halted most of our business. It shut down the entire industry.
Evie adds that now, more than a year after the strike started, they still haven't been able to recover, which is why they're going out of business and having to sell all their merchandise.
We started getting like trickles of people in once the writer's strike was over, but we never really fully recovered to how we were functioning before the strike and the pandemic.
Mark Meyer owns Faux Library Studio Props, also in North Hollywood, a prop house that specializes in books, decor, and furniture. They also struggled after the writer's strike ended, but have been able to stay in business. He was down to 1 employee and has been able to hire back 70% of his staff. But they've seen plenty of colleagues close up shop.
It went on a couple of months too long, you know. It was just too long for everybody to hang on, you know.
Meyer is still paying back rent to his landlord that he wasn't able to pay during the strike. He's currently paying a total of $100,000 a month.
This is like a dream.
As for Marissa, she's hoping that by buying these items, she'll be preserving Hollywood history. She's also helping keep these items from ending up in a landfill.
I'm bringing them back to life. I'm laundering them. I'm repairing them. I'm removing stains. I'm also upcycling them. I love to upcycle pieces that otherwise wouldn't be able to be salvaged.
So while Valentino's may be closing, their clothes will live on for years to come.
Elementary school students are making their voices heard with a new podcast. Coming up, how they're honing their skills behind the mic.
Here's the deal. In this election year, people need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
I
I don't remember how it started.
Go to Dad.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
By Thursday and Friday, we'll be talking about a much cooler scenario across the eastern half of the U.S., but still more storms to deal with in the southern plains. And it's just kind of one of those one thing after another for folks here. They've seen several rounds of severe weather over the last several weeks, and it looks like another round headed their way on Thursday. They could see some heavy rainfall on Friday from the southern plains up to the upper Midwest and the Mississippi River Valley, while the eastern side and the western side of the lower 48 are very, very quiet. From Florida all the way up to Maine, and then you go from California to the Pacific Northwest. Very quiet weather, so we'll be focusing a lot of attention for Thursday and Friday on the eastern, or the central portion of the country. Temperatures, like we said, cooling down. You're going to see a big-time change. Now, it's still going to be very hot down to the south, but notice the temperatures like Orlando and Miami that saw temperatures earlier this week well into the 90s. A little bit of a break. Now, I know 89, 91 doesn't seem like it, but that is a break for them because they've been setting records not only for heat, but for how hot it feels. The humidity and the heat index values have been absolutely off the charts. A little bit of a cool down for folks in the middle section of the country, but more extreme heat for places like Phoenix at 105 on Friday afternoon. While the East Coast will see temperatures in the 70s. Raleigh, New York, mid to upper 70s, we'll take it for sure. Now that severe weather risk on Thursday, we've mentioned again, the same areas that have dealt with severe weather for the last several weeks. That severe weather risk from, again, places like Denver, Colorado, the eastern side of the state of Colorado. Then you go all the way down to the Texas Panhandle, into Texas and the Metroplex of Dallas, possibly seeing some severe weather on Thursday. Oklahoma City, Wichita, these places have just absolutely gone through it with the severe weather all this month. The month of May has been a very busy month, so they're going to be happy to see a little bit of a change once we get into June, and that's where we pick up the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. Now, warm temperatures off to the west. It's going to be extreme as far as the heat index values go. A lot of humidity too getting pulled into the central portion of the country, but a big time break in the heat. Temperatures anywhere from 2 to 3 degrees below average as we start the month of June, and even getting a break from the heat across the portions of the south that have been dealing with sweltering temperatures all month long.
Pro golfer Scottie Scheffler's case is set to return to court for a hearing Wednesday. But Scheffler's attorney says the world's #1 golfer will not attend. And he does not plan to take a plea deal. Louisville police arrested Scheffler nearly 2 weeks ago as he tried to enter the Valhalla Golf Club for the PGA Championship. He came across a fatal crash and tried to drive past it. Police say an officer stopped Scheffler, claiming Scheffler refused to comply. The reigning Masters champion says it was all a misunderstanding. Podcasts have become all the rage in recent years. A group of Massachusetts kids has joined the party, hoping to make their voices heard. And as Spectrum's Devin Bates reports, the youngsters are putting in the time, honing their skills behind the mic.
Normally, I like doing recess ones, stuff about recess.
Life as a third grader can sometimes feel like everyone is talking at you. Go here, learn this, pay attention. But at Clough Elementary, students are getting the chance to have their say on the Clough Speaks Up podcast.
I usually like to do debates about who's better in sports or anything really about sports. I'll just talk about it.
With the help of a grant, the school is able to spend $1,200 on all the equipment these kids need to put their thoughts out into the world, including microphones, recording software, and mixing boards. It's not something you often see in an elementary school, but Principal Liz Garden says it should be.
What I hope to see in education is that kids are a part of the process. We're not teaching to them, that they are part of their learning. And so I think this, this gives them that opportunity to be involved and invested. What's been amazing is the kids have impressed me and surprised me every time with their confidence.
A lot of people think that dance isn't a sport, so we thought we might as well just make a podcast. We both agree that dance is a sport.
Students meet once a week before school to brainstorm their ideas for new episodes with the help of technology teacher Jen Hall. She says they're already well on their way to becoming podcasting experts.
What I've lived seeing already is seeing for some of those students who they've kind of found their element, that they really enjoy, that they may not always be up front and center being seen, but really their voice can really be heard through this. And believe it or not, they are working on their writing skills through this. And so just their ideas and really working through that process has been great to watch.
Next up for these students, we'll be teaching some of their classmates how to podcast, but Principal Garden says years down the road, who knows what this experience could lead to.
I see some of these kids maybe being in your seat, like when they grow up, because this sparked an interest for them that maybe wouldn't have been there before.
I'm Sharon Tazwell. Thanks for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters. Streaming live on your smart TV and connected devices, plus on-demand weather forecasts. It's all there as you step outside with the Spectrum News mobile app, keeping you informed and in the know throughout your day. Spectrum News Plus, local stories, connecting communities. Exclusively for Spectrum customers. Now available on your favorite devices.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
Really tall.
I'm a rocket structural engineer, designing and building parts of the rocket on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands?
Yes.
You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go. Never gonna